Alright folks, I think I am good to go. Let me check my audio levels here. Let me know if at any point the audio sounds a little funky. I've got a limiter on it and I'm just worried I might be hitting that at some point or another. Let me know if that happens. So, hi, September live Q&A. Got a second display going here. It's going to confuse me a little bit, but stop doing that, Windows. Anyway, so what I'm going to be doing today is I need to work on this wiring harness for the 55 Chevy that I'm working on, LS3 with a 4L70E 4-speed automatic transmission. This is the transmission wiring harness right here. So I need to work on that. I might as well do a stream, do a Q&A while I'm working on this harness, basically. So if you have any questions about how it is that I do harness work like this, or specific questions about this, I'll try and show you a little more than just this view and actually show you the wiring harness a little bit while I work. But yeah, cool. Audio sounds decent. Glad to hear it. A burnout in the Prius, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Yeah, that thing can leave the line in power mode okay, but no. It can stop. It can lock up the rear brakes really, really easily. That's the worst thing about that car. So, I mean, I can make tires squeal in that way. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to start figuring out where I need to be on this harness, and we can go from there. Switch screens here so you folks can see what I'm doing. Yeah, here we go. So, I've got connector views pulled up here in all data. Basically, I need to pin the transmission connector for actually going into the transmission to the solenoids and all that, and the vehicle speed sensor onto this harness, as well as I need to loom it so that it's nice and clean, and I have another Deutsche Connector on the other end that I'll get to in a minute. I might as well cover, this is an EFI connection wiring harness. I reached out to the folks. It's not something they typically sell necessarily. You have to special order it basically. What it is on the one end, hidden in here, they send it to you with the transmission control module connector already hooked up, and then just 15 foot of wire, and that is it. From there, you have to wire everything else yourself. I really like this style of harness because it allows me to get things exactly where I want them to be. Diesel Punk comments, no, the dude with the bike shop right across the street from my house never got back to me. I messaged him on Instagram about doing a tour of his shop, and I kind of had hoped to do it this week, but he's just never gotten back to me. I messaged him on Instagram, and he told me to email him or text him, and he gave me his number, but I didn't feel right about texting him, so I sent him an email to his business email, and I haven't heard back from him since. So I'll try and reach out to him sometime soon. Maybe next time I have some downtime. I should have done it this week, but next time I have some downtime, I'll just go over there and try and find his shop in the building and be like, hi, here I am. What else am I going to do? So I'm going to go live on Instagram too, because I don't know, why not? Anyway, all right. So I've got this harness laid out already. I mocked it up in the car in New Hampshire last week so that I knew where I was going to want things, and I kind of marked. One way I'll often mark a harness as to where I'm going to cut it is I just bend it really hard so it kind of keeps its shape there. So it's bent to a 90 right here, and that tells me where I want to cut this harness off at. And then the VSS, same thing. I bent it real hard at this other end so I can figure that out. So basically with this harness, I need to go wire by wire and figure out exactly where I need to be with each of these connections in this. So that can be a pain, but it's doable. Move the chat here so it's somewhere more visible for me. All right. Anyway, all right. This harness is about, the wires come in this ECM already set up at about 15 feet long. So I've got it marked back here as to where it's going to pass through the backrest of the seat and where it actually goes into the trunk, because I'm trunk mounting the ECM in this car so I can hide it and also still make it easy to access in case we want to do anything special. For those on Instagram, since I just started Instagram Live for whatever reason, I'm doing a little wiring harness work here, so let's see if I can get a better angle for you folks. All right. Yes, so. All right, I need to figure out how long I need to make everything here. And probably just start cutting stuff. Oh, cut to the line. I made myself a little note. It says cut to here. Good thing, because I thought I needed to cut it much farther back. I would have made a serious mistake there had I done otherwise. So, how's everybody doing today? Oh, I got to set the top chat. I hate when it does that. That's all looking good. Okay, back to what I was doing here. So I've got this harness all kind of taped up here. I need to figure out sleeving length on this thing to figure out how long it needs to be. Cool, have yourself some fun, and hopefully whatever you try to shape actually turns out worth a damn. Some days I have off days, I know that. So have fun. Ugh. Probably a bad day to be working on a wiring harness since Holly LS Fest is going on right now. So I can't see this being a popular stream on a day when anybody who's really interested in this stuff is probably off checking out actual car builds. So I'm using this braided type of sleeving here. I like this stuff. It kind of works out nicely for these more, I don't know, has a nice look to it. You can see the wires through it a little bit, so you can help to identify where things are, where you need them to be. I like it. I am fond of it. I'm gonna drop the Instagram Live. Not much of a reason for that, honestly. Okay, so I've got this looming here. I need to figure out how long the loom needs to be for this harness. So I don't have any tape here at the moment. I would normally probably tape this to where it's gonna finish off. Say I'm gonna start from the cut end. I would normally tape it here and then just run it along the length of this. I'm gonna try and clamp it to this. I have this vice grip here. I didn't grab any tape. I didn't think about this beforehand, unfortunately. That's good enough for now. Now, run the length of this along this harness. If you have any questions you might want answered, or about the channel, about YouTube, about anything, feel free to ask. If I don't like them, I won't answer them. But in the meantime, would anybody like to see more wiring videos? That's something I'm curious about. The video I did last week about actually making battery cables hasn't been doing as well as I thought it might do, but I think it's an interesting topic, and I've had a lot of traction on Instagram where people are interested in the wiring work that I'm doing. So that doesn't always translate to YouTube, but I'm curious what people are thinking. Let's switch back over to just looking at me working on this. Speaking of social media. All right. So, have that pinned there. Like I said, I would normally tape this to the harness as I go to give myself my length, and unfortunately, I don't have any tape on hand. I don't want to leave you guys dead just to go find some, so I'll just work like this. How was everybody's Labor Day holiday? Anybody do anything exciting, interesting? Personally, I have worked almost entirely. Alright, I've got my length figured out here. Now I need my... I'll use these snips. I thought I had a pair of scissors here. Alright, got that cut to length. Ugh. Because this isn't a split loom that I'm using, let's see if it'll focus. Yeah, because this isn't a split loom that I'm using, it's this woven stuff. It's one piece, which means I need to fully slip it over the harness to get it where I need it to be. So, I can remove these clamps. Ooh. Worked on your car? Yeah, well, I did a little bit of that too. I did rear brakes on my Prius and oil change and rotated the tires. Woo. But, you know, stuff it needed. I drive a lot, especially when I'm doing shop tours and stuff. I drive to those shops to do those videos, and it ends up being a lot of time. Car shows and all that. I've had my car for, the car I have right now, for 2 years, and I've put 90,000 miles on it in that time. Definitely above the average, I guess. So, okay, I think I intended this to split here. That's why I have this mark. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do that. I just use masking tape when I'm working on these harnesses to just tie them together loosely so that I know where I intend things to be. And then it just gives me a rough little thing that I can throw away without wasting electrical tape or something else that would hold better than I need it to hold or be more expensive. Okay, so I need to cut this here. Okay, now, like I said, this stuff is not split, so I have to feed it over this the whole frickin' way, which is never particularly fun, but I can work with it. All right. Both of my cats and my dog are all kind of surrounding me just off camera. One of them's making biscuits in a bed over here, and she sounds quite happy. You having fun, Zelda? Yeah. Okay. Now I need slip. Why does it end up like that? Let me zoom in here. All right, so now I just need to feed this harness into this loom, which is pretty straightforward to do, but after a certain point, you usually get to the spot where, I'm gonna go past that so I can leave that. You usually get to a point where this doesn't want to push so nicely anymore. I'm getting about to there now. All right, so now what I need to do is I actually need to push this loom forward and snake it like that. There we go. Now it's snaking its way down this harness as I go. All right, Clint, thank you for checking in. Hope it's not my end causing, if there's any stream issues, if it seems like it's dropping out or something, let me know. On my end, it seems to be going pretty good. Yeah, YouTube says I've got good health, good stream strength, so let me know if you have any trouble. God dang it. the VSS wires ended up outside of the loom, so I now have to pull this back off of here and do this again. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Well, actually, I can cut this off. I marked myself where I need to cut this harness on the car. And then I can cut this off right here. Focus. Not gonna focus. Okay. Now, okay. It's weird that this ends up like the same. I'm a little weirded out by that, but what are you gonna do? I gotta look for my marks. Look for my marks real quick on here, make sure I'm not doing something wrong. I didn't mark the VSS wire beyond just bending it, which is not ideal. Hello to any and all new people following in. Hope you're having a good Saturday. I'm here for another 20-30 minutes probably. I'll be doing this. I'm working on this wiring harness for the 55 Chevy that I've been working on at my day job. So, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over. Clint, okay, cool. Glad to hear it's working better for you. YouTube gives me like a health index and it seems like it's holding up okay on my end, but my internet here really kind of sucks. Unfortunately, in the town I live in, I just can't get as good at internet as I really would like or should have for what I do. So, is what it is. I'm not loving where that is. Cut the line. I definitely marked that. So I'm going to leave this along to here. I thought I did myself a better job of marking this than I did. Tell us more about your day job. My day job is automotive restoration, customization. I'm a fabricator primarily there. I do also EFI stuff. I've got more experience with that, the LS swap stuff like this, than my coworkers do. So I've been kind of taking on that responsibility there as well. But it's, yeah, the shop I work at is let me zoom out. The shop I work at is a small space in southern New Hampshire, but focused on high quality restorations. The place is called A-Class Act Auto Restoration. There's 3 of us that work there, painter, body shop manager, and then the owner and myself. And we all do pretty much everything. I'm the primary metal shaper and fabricator. And then my boss does some metal shaping and fabrication. He's an excellent dent repair guy. Like, if you need to knock a dent out of something, he is far better at it than I am. I've learned a fair bit from him, just doing it and showing me little tips and tricks. It's definitely interesting to watch him work. He has such a better feel for the metal than I do as far as dent repair is concerned. And then I'm primarily the welder, fabricator, some wiring work, chassis stuff. So yeah, it's a nice shop. It's an awfully small place, and overall really enjoyable to work. It's one of the better places I've ever worked. The guys are nice. It's good. The focus on the quality of work is top notch. So I really like that. I've worked a lot of places, unfortunately, that have had a real penchant for cutting corners, and I refuse to do that. So we always end up butting heads because I refuse to cut corners, and some people want to do that. So it is what it is. Have I ever worked with a BCM? No, I always eliminate the BCMs. I'm sure there is a way to work around it and to work with it and keep it on a project, but I'm not 100% that I could see much of a benefit to it. I know with like an LS3, yeah, you have the nice cruise control function built into there. But other than that, I'm not really sure what purpose I see to maintaining the BCM on a build. So for me, no, never have, and I probably never will. So. What's the deal with fusible links in a harness? Coming from AJ German. Fusible links are generally, let me see if I'm remembering this correctly. Generally, a fusible link will allow a longer burn than a fuse will. So say you've got a 15 amp fuse on the circuit, but you've got a 10 amp fusible link in there. The fusible link would allow the circuit to pull, 12 amps for 30 seconds before the fusible link would burn out. Whereas the fuse, if you hit 15 amps, it's gonna pop. Or you cross over the 15 amps. That's my general understanding of them. Honestly, I used to put fusible links on things like starter circuits, and I really don't do that anymore. Lately, I've just been using mega fuses and fusing circuits with regular ATC style fuses, the blade type fuses. So I've really stopped doing the fusible link thing. If anybody can explain to me why I should probably be putting them in, I'd be interested in hearing that. But my biggest problem that I've had with fusible links and putting them into circuits versus existing in circuits is you can buy fusible link wire in a spool. And that's all well and good. But say it's a 10 amp rated, or usually it's much more than that for fusible link. Say it's a 100 amp rated fusible link. Well, that is a certain length of that wire. If you use 100 inches of a 100 amp fusible link, it's not going to be 100, it's going to mess with it. It's generally, say if you look at a harness, an original fusible link on like a starter circuit, it's generally only a few inches, and it only needs to be a few inches. But those spools, when you buy them, I've never really seen them come with like a chart or anything to tell you how much of it you're supposed to use to attain the rated rating. So I've never liked that, and so I kind of fell out of love with using them for that fact. I think I left a little piece of tape in there, but oh well. About to rewire a Fiero. Cool, good luck with that. Yeah, I just use fuses at this point. On the 55 Chevy I've been working on, I'll see in a moment if I can pull up a video or something of it. I actually mounted the fuses, mega fuses, under hood. So I've got two 175 amp mega fuses on that. One is for the alternator circuit, and one is for the main circuit, so going to the fuse box and the actual engine, well, not the engine harness, that's all fed directly off the battery, but. All right. Getting there. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm feeding this harness through here bit by bit. I've got to see how it snakes up like that, and then I got to stretch it out because this is the woven type of braiding. I have to feed it through the harness, but because of that, it just ends up looking so much nicer and so much more like I knew what I was doing, even if I'm just faking it. Fake it till you make it, right? As always, guys, let me know if there's any stream issues, whether it's dropping out a little bit, or it's just insanely boring, which is impossible I'm working. But I had to do this project anyway for work while I was off this week. I've said I would do this harness job, and I thought, you know what, I might as well stream it while I'm doing it. No reason not to. So, all right. I've reached the end of my harness point here. So, I'm going to go ahead and take my tape off. Get off there. All right. Now I got to pull on the other end. The worst problem with this woven stuff is it gets a little crazy at the end. Unfortunately, they usually recommend you go ahead and use a lighter and burn the ends, but then I find it doesn't flare out as much, so double-edged sword on that. Fake as we make it, man. Hey, I've said that for a long time now, and it's actually gotten me fairly far in the automotive industry. So obviously you need to have some knowledge to go with the faking it, but you know, hey, what are you gonna do? All right, so I've got heat shrink tubing here. This is a 4:1 ratio heat shrink tubing, I believe. Adhesive lined. I don't know where my scissors are right now, so I'm cutting it with dikes. Ah, I dropped it and I see my scissor on the floor for some reason. Scissors. So after this is all done, I'll link some of these, like this woven braided sleeving and the heat shrink tubing. I'll throw in links of the video after I'm done streaming this video. I'm 30 minutes in and I had hoped to have more done by now, which pretty much sounds correct. I got a little bit of a bunch up of wire here I'm not loving. Let me get to this end and see if I can tug on some wires here. Clint, you said, was it a Nova you're putting a harness into? What engine are you putting in that thing? The one I'm working with in this 55 Chevy is a crate motor from GM. It's one of the LS3s. It's got they used to call it the 480 LS3, and they still kind of call it that, but it actually dynos at the engine at 495 horsepower, so they also call it that. It's a little confusing, but it's probably a little too far for me to be trying to do that. All right, so I'm gonna get the sleeving up here. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. I'm gonna get the sleeving in here. Microphone pack fell off. Get back in my pocket, there. All right, so now I've got this here. I'm just gonna slide my heat shrink tubing over it. Nothing special going on there, obviously. And heat shrink. Now I have to be careful when I'm doing this that the heat is only going in the heat shrink tubing, because the braided sleeving that I'm using on this is plastic. So the heat from this heat shrink, or the heat gun, can damage it and kind of melt it. So I have to just get on the heat shrink. It's on the heat shrink itself only. It's not a big deal, but something I do have to look out for when I'm doing this. I like this stuff because I can use it on various sizes. I do have various sizes of it that I use, but I can use it on various size wire harnesses. I don't know, I like the look of it. Using the L96 out of a 2010 Express. Yeah, it is the poor man's LS3, but honestly, there's not a whole lot of a difference between them. You still got excellent flowing heads. I think, aren't the L92 heads the same as the, zoom back out. Aren't the heads on that basically the same as the LS3? I believe they are. Probably different valve springs and obviously different camshaft in the motor, but no, a good combination, good setup. I'm working off of a 2008 wiring harness diagram, because that's what EFI Connection recommended for this harness that I'm working with. I haven't found it to be exactly parallel, since 2008 was 5.3 liter, 6 liter engines, not the 6.2 liter, but whatever. Let me go ahead and show you. Clint, I don't know what you're using as far as wiring diagram stuff. I know you said you were looking at what wires to remove. Like I said, I don't use BCM, so I don't know if I can be much help for you there. But I don't know if you're familiar with this website. This is called lt1swap.com. I'm on the Gen 4 page right now. So they've got some decent information. It's a little bit out of date here and there, but like, you know, they got the pinout for the E38 computer that the LS3 runs off of, and they've got highlighted here, I believe, blocks are highlighted yellow, removed. Yeah, okay. Oh, you are using LT1 swap. Cool. I did find, actually, for my personal setup that I'm working on, this, I had to be careful, because it told me a few connections that I could remove that I actually found I needed. Only one or two. It was something stupid. I actually removed it, and then later I found, oh, hey, I need to put that back. Luckily I didn't cut it out. I actually properly de-pinned it. And then another one, there's something else in here. Oh, there's the add pin for TAC. I did do that. I added in the one wire, so I have TAC output. You found the full harness for the van. Good. Yeah. So I found like a upfitter's guide for the 2008 van, and it honestly isn't accurate, which is a little annoying. Like the colors didn't quite match up with what I had. And then I actually used the AC Delco service manual online, which is way too freaking expensive for what it is, to get a lot of this wiring stuff out of the way and figure that out. But right now I switched to using AllData, because the AC Delco website, if you use that, it's, what is it? If you use the AC Delco website, it ends up being like $20 for 3 days of access to the manual. And I used that up in no time. And then, and especially because like I bought it on a Wednesday, and then so I worked with it on Thursday, and then Friday I had off. So it expired while I was off work. So no fun. All right, now. Still trying to figure out where to put the fan control. Fan control would be, isn't fan control on that harness? Or on that LT1 info? I'm not using it on this harness. I'm using, because I'm running Dakota digital gauges in this 55 Chevy, I'm running, I don't want to bookmark this page. I want to find. There we go. Fan. Yeah. Low speed fan control relay, pin 58 on connector X1. So if you, one thing you can look at if you're looking at I don't know what, if you're running dual fans, I don't know what terminal to put on the second connection. But one thing you can look at if you're looking at AllData is check out AllData DIY. It's $29.95 for a year worth of access to a specific vehicle. But that's generally what I do, because I don't, especially with the work that I do, I don't use AllData enough to justify having a full-on subscription to it. So I end up just doing the AllData DIY, and usually what I'll do if I'm working on a vehicle for a customer, like somebody brings me their Nissan or something that they want me to work on, what I'll end up doing most of the time is I'll end up charging them for it, you know. But Actually, it's $29.95, I think, the first time, and then $19.95 for each subsequent vehicle. You only get it for 1 year access for that vehicle, but yeah, that's usually what I was, for a while when I was doing a lot of side work for customers, for family, friends, and whatever, that's what I would do, is I would just, $19.95, I would buy access to all data, and I would charge the customer $19.95, and then I've got the information right there. It's fair, I think, to charge them for that, because I'm saving them a lot of time for me trying to dig and find the information when it's all there already. Okay, so now I've got all this wire here. What I did is I sleeved this to the point where I'm going to split the VSS off of this, because the VSS is taking a different path along the transmission than the rest of the trans harness is. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to sleeve the rest of the trans harness separately. Yeah, all that on DIY is the way I go. If you're not daily bringing in cars that you can justify a subscription, it's the way to go. And as far as adding, you can just add that pin into that terminal and that'll be no problem. It has to be turned on, the functionality of the electric fans in the tuning software when the ECM is programmed, but that's, again, straightforward, no big deal. For a tuner or for yourself if you're trying to figure that out, honestly, it's not a big deal. And it's the same as like I had to add the pin for the tachometer output because I need tach output. So just leave this a little more. I had to add in an entire wire just for tach output. And it was no big deal, straightforward to do. And it will just be turned on in HP tuners when I get to that point. Thank you very much on the hippie name liking. It was kind of an inside joke with an ex of mine. We call ourselves hippies because we hang out with a bunch of hippie type of people, and we didn't really consider ourselves ones, but in the same regard, yeah, I basically am. You have the smaller braided that's going to go on just the VSS connection, since that's only 2 twisted wires. Flare this out a little bit. Oh, heck. I gotta figure out how to put music on these streams. I'm new to this whole live streaming thing. I mean, I've got a fairly elaborate setup going on right now, but this is my office space for my second YouTube channel, where I film computer and camera related stuff, and very rarely do so, in fact, but yeah. One of my cats is over here and she barely fits in the bed she's in right now. Yeah, I'm talking about you. What? Anybody else have any questions out there? I know there's not a ton of you right now, but there are some of you out there. Just tuned in, what am I doing? I am working on I know it's kind of a difficult thing to see. I'm working on this transmission harness for a LS swap in the 1955 Chevy Bel Air I've been working on at my day job. So right now I'm sleeving it, getting it into this nice braided stuff so that I can heat shrink and close this up. And then I'm going to pin out the connectors on it. I have these, I'm kind of overlapping. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. I'm overlapping here, and you can see how it's getting all flared out and it's fighting me. I might usually slide some, I might do that. Usually I would end up sleeving a little bit of heat shrink tubing over this to make it easier on myself, and that's what I'm gonna do. The monster in the background is not from where the wild things are. That is a My Pet Monster. It was a popular toy when I was a kid in the 80s, or 80s, early 90s. So I had one when I was a kid, and an ex of mine, we saw it at like a vintage toy and comic store, and it was expensive. I want to say like $75, $100 for it, and I just couldn't justify it. So I like pained about it, and I walked out and didn't buy it. And then I forget how long later, my birthday or Christmas or something, she ended up getting it for me. How'd you get your start in the fabrication and auto industry? Well, I see you, did you go to trade school? I did go to trade school. If you follow me on Instagram, I posted, might have been last week, I posted a picture of myself. I went to Wyotech in Pennsylvania, Blairsville, Pennsylvania. They had a campus, Wyoming Technical Institute or whatever. I went there and I studied automotive technology and chassis fabrication while I was there. And so that was where I learned a lot. How I got into the automotive industry was I grew up in the race car world a little bit. My dad raced dirt track, and my cousin raced circle track as well, dirt track. He now races 410 sprint cars, but back then he raced go-karts and dirt modifieds after 410 sprints. Get on there. So anyway, that kind of got me my taste for the auto industry, and then like building my own, playing around with my own stuff at home. And then I figured out that I wanted to work on cars for a living. So I decided to get an education in it and not just wing it. And like I could have gotten a job at a shop and kind of worked my way up from there, but I really wanted to learn the ins and outs. I'm a very technically minded person. I need to know the information about things. I don't work well if you just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can wing it and I can figure things out, but if I can figure out, I'll wing it, I'll figure it out, and I'll do it, and then I'll go home and I'll research the heck out of the topic, and then by tomorrow, I'll know more stuff than I should know about whatever the heck I'm working on. So, all right, now I've got this harness. I've got the main harness going back to the TCM connector, sleeved over where these two split, and they're slipped inside of there. So now I need to slip heat shrink tubing over this to kind of seal up this junction and just make it a cleaner overall finish. So anyway, as I was saying, I went to tech school, Wyotech. I got out of tech school, and pretty soon after that, I actually got a job at a dealership. I got fairly lucky, and I got a dealership auto tech job paying me dirt. Working full-time. Wow, why am I having a brain fart? Where you only get paid for the work you do. Flat rate auto tech job at a dealership working on primarily Mitsubishis. It was a Ford Mitsubishi dealership. I worked on the Mitsubishi team. It was a really rather large dealership. There were like 25 of us in there, but there were only like 4 to 5 of us that worked on Mitsubishis. So that's what I did. And that was my real world experience getting into the auto industry. I had 2 really good mentors where I worked there, were my managers, team leaders, and they taught me a lot of like I had book smarts at that point. I had learned how an O2 sensor works and what the transmission, like I learned a lot of technical stuff, but they taught me how to apply that to a real world scenario so that you could make time working flat rate, get the repair done in a timely manner for the customer. Like you can't break out a multimeter or a scope on every single car you do. You gotta figure out the ins and outs of how to do this. Yeah, Felix, thank you on the lighter thing. I don't have a lighter on hand here. I forgot one. And I also, sometimes I don't like to use the lighter on the TechFlex stuff here because I want this stuff to expand more to get over bigger harnesses. Sometimes I put it over bigger clumps of wire than it's necessarily intended to be on. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that. But yeah, I kind of chose not to do it and I had to fight myself a little bit there. Anyway, I was saying I keep bouncing back and forth. Automotive industry, I worked in a dealership for about a year. I got sick of working in a dealership because, well, 2 years, something like that. I got sick of it because, well, automotive dealerships are automotive dealerships, and it was right before the recession of like the 2008 recession, but it was when things were on the downward slope. So it was like 2006, 2007. And let me get this finished. I'm almost done this. Cool. Now, you can see here, I've got my VSS wire heading off here, the wire for my transmission connection heading off here, and then it's all looped into here where they're all coming together. There are cleaner ways I could go about this. This is just the way that I choose to do it, and I generally find that I like it this way, personally. Ooh. Nope, not zoomed out enough. I really need 2 cameras for this, but I only have the one going. Looks beautiful. Thank you very much, Clint. I appreciate that. So, now over here at this end, I've got my transmission connection wires, and then I've got my VSS wires. So they're going to take different paths around the transmission when they get down there. There's a couple brackets that I'm going to tie one to versus the other. So my rambling story about my entry into the automotive industry. When I got into, actually after I worked at a dealership, I took a circumvent or circuitous route, and I went and I worked as a Matco distributor for a little while because when the recession hit, there just weren't many automotive tech jobs. I wasn't finding anything worth a damn. And I had the opportunity to open a Matco distributor route. So yeah, probably the worst time anybody could start something like that in an economic recession. But I actually did okay with it. I ended up stopping doing that because it just wasn't for me. I just personally didn't enjoy it. So it wasn't that it was like a failure of a business or anything. I want to cut this back a little bit. Yeah, it's ended up a little long. Well, unfortunately, I ended up with the TechFlex probably just a little longer than I want it to be. Thank you for reminding me that it's called TechFlex. I forgot that. I just call it braided. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I think do the pinning on the connections for the VSS. Let me go here, find the VSS on all data. I don't think I had this pulled up beforehand. Vehicle speed sensor. Diagram. Bam. All right. So, got that pulled up. Got my little baggie here with my connector in it. Yeah, I worked as a Matco distributor for a little while. And then I stopped doing that. Like I said, it wasn't because it was a failure of a business. It was just that I'm not a people person. And having to go in and day out and make friendly with people that, don't get me wrong, like I liked most of them. There were a handful I didn't like, but I liked most of them. But the ones I didn't like really took the energy out of me on days that I didn't want to be doing it, so I stopped doing it. And I moved to Austin, Texas, and I got a job at a hot rod shop. A really, really crappy hole-in-the-wall hot rod shop that doesn't exist anymore. And that got me doing what I had always wanted to do, which was working on custom cars. All right. Let me see if I can, I'm going to adjust the camera quick here and see if I can get a better view. All right, let's see if that works out. So, I've got my terminals here. I stripped back one wire already. With this connector, I've got these little rubber boots here, but I need to slip onto the wire before, like a weather pack connection needs. So I slipped the one onto the purple wire already, and then I'm ready to crimp that. I'm gonna crimp in 2 stages, I think, here. See how that goes the first time. Using some of my tool aid crimpers here. I like these ones. They came in the Deutsche crimping kit, and I really, really like these crimpers for this type of work. Check that connection. Good. Now, I go fairly overkill when I'm doing this. I do something that I guarantee you some would probably tell me I shouldn't do. I don't know, but I often solder. I will actually put just a little solder on my connection there because I just don't want wires pulling out when I'm all said and done. Solder. So to go back to my automotive industry story a little bit, I went to tech school. I did do that. I found that to be invaluable. The information, the knowledge that I learned while I was there just really, I don't know. I'm a technically minded person, so knowing the ins and outs of how things work really helped me to figure out how to diagnose and do things in this industry. So I really liked it. And then I graduated with people who thought that the education we got there was awful and that they wasn't worth their money. So I don't know. For me, it was. I still use skills that I was taught there between both fabrication and also from the chassis fabrication course that I took while I was there, and also auto tech. I mean, these skills that I'm applying right now, this isn't chassis fabrication, this is auto tech, and I'm using skills that I learned there. So, granted, they didn't teach you how to rewire a LS3 harness, but the knowledge of wiring diagrams and schematics and things like that did help. All right. Confusing myself trying to get this in the middle of the frame. All right. One crimped, soldered, and set up. On to the next one. I'm going to slip the rubber boot on before I strip it, making my life easier. Hello to anybody new who has checked in. Feel free to ask a question. I'm just working away here wiring this thing. Oh, I've been going for almost an hour now. I'd hoped to be done this in an hour, so I might knock off fairly soon. So feel free to get into any questions you may have. Check stream. Oops. Knocking stuff over. Looking good. I've been going for 56 minutes at this point. So for anybody who is kind of newer to this, coming into the stream, I'm working on a transmission harness for a LS3 that is in the 55 Chevy at my day job that I've been putting together for a while now. Thank you, Felix, for saying that the harness does look good. I appreciate that. You know, I think it looks good, but then I never know what people's taste is, or if they've seen better jobs that, you know, mine don't hold up to, whatever. Have the videos generated more business for the shop? No, I can't say to this point that they have, because honestly, I don't film at work. I separate things. I don't hide the fact that I work for somebody, and I try to make that clear to people, because I do work there, and if people want to come and get work done by me, going to the shop is the way to do it. But because I keep things fairly separate, it's probably not translated to work. And also, we're in the middle of nowhere, southern New Hampshire, so Ringe, New Hampshire. If anybody wants work, feel free to stop by. But yeah, so no, it hasn't really related to or translated to bringing in work. My contacts at companies and such have definitely translated to helping the business for my boss, I think. Personal opinion anyway, because it's allowed me access to different resources through this than what I have available to me normally. Clint, this is for a customer, yes. What is a New Hampshire? Live free or die state, apparently. I don't know. It's I don't know, it's a state. It exists in the US. Clint, where are you at? I can see that if I did things differently, if I filmed at the shop more and I made a bigger deal about the shop, I could see how possibly it could translate into business for the shop, and I would like that. I like where I work. They're good folks. I'd be happy to have more business come in as a result of this. But so far, it hasn't happened. Oklahoma, all right, down there down the south. I lived in Texas for a few years. I did my time and I left. So, all right, now I've got both of my terminals on here. I've got the boots crimped on. Let me see if I can get. Wonder if this will focus. There we go. So I've got the boot connections crimped, the actual rubber boots. I've got the terminal ends. Focus. Got the terminal ends on here. I've got them soldered on here. So yeah. This is ready for me to sleeve this end with heat shrink. Fighting a tech flex. This is one of those times I really could have used that lighter. I want to get one of those cutters, the heated cutter knife thing, but I just haven't been able to justify it. It's $100-some bucks that I don't need to spend. A pair of scissors and a lighter do the job. All right, now I've got that finished off there, and I'm ready to go ahead and pin these into this terminal, in this connection. Let's go ahead and switch over to the other view. Screen share. All right, so now Cheap hot knife, not worth it. All right, good, thank you. Saved me a little trouble there, because I'm sure I would have ended up buying a cheap one. VSS, I got A and B terminals. A, B, rad. So, light green is A, and then purple is B. So now I've got this, I got this figured out here. This side is A, this side is B. So I'm going with my light green on the A side because that's what the pinout connector view is telling me, and then purple is my B. All I gotta do is just orient them properly and slip them in here. Pair my Sunex precision pliers to help me kind of grip the wire and push it in there. Cool. I heard a good audible click. These are in. Awesome. All right. There's one connector down. I might as well, I'm here. I had intended for this to only be an hour stream. I'm gonna go a little bit over that. I'm at hour 2 now, but I might as well get the transmission connector on here as well, even though that's a whole lot more work. I got the little retainer clip thing that I gotta get in here as well. Goes in between the wires. And of course I heat shrunk this so close to here to make it a nice clean finish that I'm having a little trouble getting this in here. Come on. Fit. There we go. Got that plastic in there. And now it's all nice and retained. Cool. Now that's a fully finished connection. Vehicle speed sensor, done. Envious of the cordless heat gun. I really like this thing. The only problem is battery life. I started with a full charge here when I started this video. I've only done 3, albeit large, heat shrink jobs so far. You know, I got that one big connection there that I did, and then I got the 2 or 3 small ones inside of there. Okay, so I did 4, 5 so far, and it's already down to 2. Thank you for watching the stream. I appreciate it. I don't know. I'm figuring out this whole stream process, but I kind of thought that actually doing something like the last one I did ended up being like 2 hours. I had a great Q&A session going on, but I felt like I should be doing something. So that's why I'm working on this harness. I think it's more interesting this way. Now these wires are all slightly different lengths, so I'm going to go ahead and finish those off. I've got one extra little boot. I thought I had an extra, yeah, got an extra terminal connection as well. Anyway, yes, about that. I really do like this heat gun, cordless heat gun. I did a full review on this thing. Battery life's the worst thing because this is one of the 5 amp hour batteries, and I've half drained it on 5 granted large heat shrink jobs, so not great in that respect. All right, I'm gonna slip a heat shrink onto this thing. I could have stood to use a smaller TechFlex braided on this length, and I would have liked to have, but I only brought 2 rolls home with me from work, so yeah. But mentioned earlier, I believe it was Clint, you asked earlier, this is a customer job. I don't know how my boss is working out the billing on this since I'm doing this on my own time at home. I don't even know if I'm honestly getting paid for it. I like doing this stuff, and it was something to do a stream about, so. And it's tedious work to just sit at work and do, and granted, I kind of like that. I did this stuff all, like de-pinning the ECM harnesses and all that. I did that, I forget what day I did that, before I went on vacation here, and yeah, it was fun, but it's also a lot of time, and it kind of feels like if a customer comes in and they see me just sitting here looking at a computer and going, it probably looks bad to them. I don't know. Cool. My boss actually suggested this. I had hoped to do the entire harness, which I'm glad I'm not doing, because the engine harness as well, because it would have been too time consuming to do on a stream for sure. But yeah, my boss suggested it. It was an interesting idea. I'm an idiot. I didn't fully label these wires, and I've got 3 blue wires in here, so I may need to ohm those out and figure out exactly where I'm at here. Dumbass. You should do the BCM. I don't have a BCM for this thing, so all I've got is the E38. Actually, I don't even have that at the moment. What I'm doing is, like I said, I'm working with a GM Performance Parts engine, the 495 horsepower LS3, and we actually did end up getting the harness from GM for that, but the harness from GM I really don't care for. It's pre-terminated in really dumb ways that it's hard to explain. The way they do it is just, it's stupid, and I don't care for it at all. So I ended up getting this harness, this universal harness, from the folks at EFI Connection in Erie, Pennsylvania. Good folks. They worked with me really nice on getting this harness for me so that I could custom do it the way that I want to do it. So that's great. I just remembered something else I need to do on this harness. And so it was nice of them to work with me on that. It's not something they normally necessarily offer, the product, that is. Let me get this. I've got these 6 wires back here that I just remembered. So I've got them just kind of tied off here and separated. These are the 6 wires that go from the transmission harness to the engine harness. So I need to put a Deutsche connector on these. Decided to be cheap. Honestly, don't get me wrong. If I was doing my own engine swap, and I was putting an LS-based engine into one of my own vehicles, I probably wouldn't buy that crate engine. But it is a really good crate engine otherwise, for customer work. You know, for me doing this for somebody, them getting a warranty, getting high quality, brand new components. I like it in that respect. I used to do junkyard stuff when people brought me their engines, and I stopped doing it for the most part. Like, I'm not saying I would say no if somebody brought me an engine, but I've had a couple where, like, I had one guy who brought me a 5.3 liter, and I put it into his 98 Chevy pickup truck, and it was a huge project because that was an OBD2 truck that had a Vortec 5.7 liter in it, and then I put a 5.3 liter LS-based engine into it. And because of that, like, I had to keep the original ECM for the OBD2 emission status. So then I had to send the 5.3 liter signals to that box. It took a long time to get it all wired up right and how I needed it to be. And then when it was all said and done, his engine had like a bent push rod. One of the push rods was bent and it ran like crap. And then that was my fault. He was mad at me, mad at the shop, because he'd spent a fair amount of money getting the thing running to get to that point. But he provided the engine. I didn't disassemble it and confirm that it was mechanically sound because he provided it. And he wasn't paying me to do that. He was paying me to wire it. So that was a real pain in the butt. You picked up the 2010 running $2,500 shipped from South Dakota. That's a steal. That's a good price. Darn good price in my opinion. I mean, like, the engine, transmission, torque converter, wiring harness, alternator, starter. Yeah, all that from GM for this 495 horse engine. We're talking, customer paid, I want to say $13,000 for that. So, you know, for warranty and all brand new components, I don't think it's so bad. It's always the mechanic's fault. It is always the mechanic's fault. Yeah, so I try to avoid doing junkyard swaps at this point. Last one I did do a junkyard engine swap for my brother-in-law in his 1972 C10. I put a 6-liter engine in that for him, but it was my brother-in-law. Like, you know, something goes wrong with it. I also did it at a steep discount versus what I would charge a regular customer to do it. So if he had a problem, is what it is. So, all right, I've got these wires to do here. I've got to go to a 6-pin. I'm going to go to a 6-pin Deutsche Connector on these, so that basically when I'm all said and done, this transmission harness is going to be completely separate of the engine harness. I didn't need to do that. I did it, quite honestly, I did it because it allowed me to keep moving and bring this harness home. The engine harness wasn't ready for me to bring home and do at home. The transmission harness was. So that's that. I've got this on here. This section here is where it's in the trunk already, so like it's going to pass behind the back seat and then go to the transmission control module. So I've got enough work left to do on this thing. I don't want this to be another 2-hour long stream, so that some people might actually watch it after this stream is all said and done. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Oh, you're asking about the Deutsche Connectors. I might as well show you that before I sign off here. Deutsche Connectors, it's a company, Deutsche. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. I am German, but I am bad at pronouncing that word. Deutsche Connecten. It's this type of connector right here. So you've got these. They are weather tight. They got a seal. They got a seal on this one, on the male one. And then on the back side, they've got rubber seals that the wires and connectors pass through to get to there. So overall, I really like these. They connect together easily. Yeah. I use these all over the place on wiring. I basically don't use weather pack connectors or cheap little blade type. Like, I love these things. I use them so much, so many places. So, actually, let me pull up the video from last week real quick. I've got a little, this will be the last thing I do on the stream, most likely. I've got a little demonstration. Actually, let's pull it up over here. I've already got this set up. HotRodHippie battery cable. Yeah, this was last week's video. Let's see how well this goes watching a video and streaming at the same time. Screen share. Sorry, I'm feeling my way through this thing. Why am I not getting audio? Are you folks hearing audio for this video? Meh, whatever. Anyway, I'm doing this just to show you something quick here. I'm looking for, yeah, here's the section where I actually, some of the car that I'm working on right now, you can see where, let's go back here. This transmission harness that I've been wiring this entire time is going from the trunk to the engine, trunk to the transmission. Here's where the BCM is actually going to be mounted, is right there on the top there next to the battery. There's the engine in the body. Let's see if we can get here. Yeah, I've got some of the Deutsche connectors here for the bulkhead connections that are actually passing through the firewalls, and you can see a couple of them up in there as well. where I'm using them to join different sections like the HVAC, the AC air conditioning box, and things like that together with Deutsche Connectors. I really like those things. The whole front wiring harness going to the headlights and everything, I use those. And electric fans, I replace those with them because they're weather tight. They just work great. They keep corrosion down. I really, really like those things. So, all right. I think that's going to be that for that video. If you want to check that out, that is the video that went up last week, battery cable making, where I produce battery cables and show you how it is that I do that. So, back to the main stream here. Yeah, okay, I saw 1 or 2 more questions in there. Who supplies tracer primary wire in various colors? I don't know, like, a manufacturer where to get it, but I do have a good place for you to get it. This harness that I'm working with here, I mentioned a couple times, it's from a company called EFI Connection. Let me pull up their website here. And they actually sell wire by the foot, and they will actually sell you tracer wire. So wire, they get in pre-cut lengths, they have end of spools, they've got it by the foot. Let's go to the pre-cut wire lengths here. So yeah, you can see here they've got 22 gauge, black with a white tracer, brown with a white tracer, pink with a blue tracer. They don't have everything that I could want, but they have everything that the GM harnesses that they produce works with, because obviously they're just selling you off the spools of wherever they get it from. I haven't found a good source personally to buy tracer wire. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it various places, but I haven't gotten it where I'm happy with where I've gotten it from. So you actually just reminded me though, I need to order some pink with white tracer. Thank you very much. I need to order that for this coming week for the engine harness that I'm doing. So thank you very much for reminding me that. Just checking back on the chat here, making sure I'm not missing anything. My mom let me know that she can hear me. Awesome. For some reason that video had audio that should have played through and it didn't. I don't know why. It is what it is. So, all right, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video, this stream. It's already almost an hour and a half long, and I wanted it to be 45 minutes to an hour. And I need to go eat lunch. So, and then I'll come back and I'll work on this harness. And if you follow me on Instagram, let me pop up my social media here. HotRodHippie on Instagram and Facebook page. There is a HotRodHippie Facebook page for this actual YouTube channel. I post pictures of my day job work there very often, usually 4 times a week at least. I find Monday through Thursday are the best days for me to post on Instagram, so that's generally when I do. So I will definitely be posting this harness work on there. And I'm going to try and do monthly streams. This is the September streams. I'll probably do one come October for Halloween. But no, I'll just do one for general Q&A, and let's see if we can make this more of a thing that people actually check in for, and we get a larger audience going, maybe, hopefully. Thank you very much for checking out the stream. I'm gonna wind down here a little bit, so please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe on the actual videos. That really helps out. I want to grow the audience. It's a slog. It's always a pain to grow an audience on YouTube, and I'm trying my best to just keep it going and keep growing it just by producing quality content, but you know, that only goes so far, it seems like. So any help you can provide, I greatly, greatly appreciate. And we have merchandise, you know, teespring.com/stores/HotRodHippie for t-shirts, stickers. You can check that out if you want to, and that is there. And then of course, directly support the YouTube channel with patreon.com/HotRodHippie. That really, really helps out. Oh, my nephew has been watching the stream as well. So thank you for having him watch that. Maybe he'll actually know who his uncle is in a few years, because my family lives in North Carolina, for those who are unfamiliar, and I am in Massachusetts. So, yeah, Worth is great for a lot of stuff, but I'm sure Worth is probably wicked expensive for tracer wire, I would imagine. The pricing, I found this stuff individually cheaper than EFI Connection has it, but they have more than some other sources that I've found, so hope that works out for you. I'm going to throw some of this stuff into the comments and the links in the description down below for anybody who actually watches this after this video is done, after this live stream is done. Thank you very much for everybody who has tuned in, checked this out, And thanks for everybody who's been engaged in the chat. Clint, you have been awesome through this whole thing. I really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody. Have a good one. I'm going to go ahead and sign out now, if I can remember how to do that.